the city pretty well. Yeah.
Oh. Parking? So. Their condition. Thank you so much. Yeah, we just need those.
Okay.
Thank you.
Did you already have an agenda?
I think so, yeah.
Rick, did you need one?
Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Paper is nice sometimes. Looking for your city.
Mayor? Mayor, how you doing? I'm well. Luckily the traffic pattern was okay. But,
Pardon me? Oh, good water around.
Yeah, okay.
Oh. If I hadn't drank out of that yet already, I'd give you mine, but.
Small group.
So,
Debating about whether or not the extra tables, but.
the second you put them away, the bigger, be this bigger rush of people.
Yeah.
Well, meeting order 6 o'clock. Glad you should be here tonight. Invite you to join me in the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, this is an opportunity for public comment. Are there any signups on the sheet? There are. I would take that sheet. All right, Sam first. All right, make sure you introduce yourself and where you're from.
I'm Sam Knesset. I'm from Stevenson. That we're here for. Anyway, my comment is about, I guess it's item A on the consent agenda, the over $500,000 for design services for the Courthouse Park Plaza. My understanding, that was not necessarily a widely supported community effort. I know the questionnaire that went out to the public was not directed in a way to get that kind of feedback. I've heard a lot of comments just personally about people being unhappy with that. So I'm really concerned, very small town, we're diving into $500,000, not being sure the public is really supporting a renovation of the courthouse, which personally I find beautiful, but I'm from Eastern Oregon and I like these beautiful courthouse views. But anyway, so I'm concerned, that sounds like a whole lot of money to me in a small town, when we don't necessarily have a consensus. That's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Greg. Make sure you, Greg. Yeah, make sure you introduce yourself. Where you're
My
from.
name's Greg Stafford. I live in Stevenson, Washington, this great town. And I moved here in 2005, and since then we've been trying to get some sort of a city agreement for an emergency access or turnaround at the end of Maple Alameda Street. And I'm reading something from September 1st, 2005 from Elaine Settler, who was the Public Works Director. If the decision is made to stop using the upper road that crosses the Beatley's property, there would need to be substantial improvements to Maple Alameda to bring it up to city standards. The road would need to be widened, so the city would need to establish property lines so they could reclaim the right of way. There would be excavation needed with some rebuild of roadway bays. The road sits on a slope, so there would be more slope stabilization needed. Also, the road would need a hammerhead or at least a minimum size to ensure adequate turnaround space for both local and maintenance traffic. The approximate time needed for these improvements would be 3 to 5 days. The largest concern could be locating the survey right of way to prevent the city from crossing private property lines. And the improvements that would be needed, be road widened, hammerhead turnaround at the end of the road, extensive brushing, additional gravel base, and ditching improvements. Since then, we built a brand new ADU, and according to some of the rules, we're supposed to be able to know about fires, it's fire season. But we have forwarded your request to route requirements to both city's fire chief and Skamania County Ambulance Office. Again, the written standards we have for fire apply to new construction. And so we have just built a building and I sell insurance. And it's kind of concerning that there's no way for a fire truck to get to this building in the city. Or an ambulance. And so I can't even let my mom live there. And that's what I built it for. So it's kind of concerning that I feel that I haven't been treated well because we worked on this since 2005. And this was a long time ago. I also have stuff from Mary Ann Duncan Cole that I sent you that you can read. Did you read that or see it? Yeah. Okay. So I don't need to read that, but it's about basically, we have asked for help. And when it comes to Roseland Extension, it's been very difficult for city right of way for emergency access. And so it seems like at the end of the street, has anybody gone and looked at it? What did you think about the stuff being put in there?
It's
The fencing.
public comment.
Okay,
So
well, there's stuff in there that's kind of been put in there, and we're kind of concerned because we were asked to get a critical area permit to just be able to put in a Stound and also a city right-of-way permit, and this was by Ben Schumacher. And so what it is there's been discussion that it's not a city right-of-way, but whatever it is, we just want to be able to get emergency vehicle to and from that neighborhood. And in the earliest discussions from 05, they've talked about how the Tittle family and the Stafford family still need some sort of emergency access. And that's what I'm going to bring up to the city council today. And we've been asking for help for 19 years. So been a long time.
19 years.
thank you.
And we've attended the meetings.
Very much. Rick.
Rick Jessel Stevenson. I took a look at the agenda and also some of the details on the landscaping and engineering. $577,000 was stunning when I looked at it. If that's 10% usually of the project's cost, that'd be $6 million. If it's 15%, it'd be $4 million. If it's 20%, then it'd be like $3 million. So I was just amazed at what things are costing these days. I guess I'm out of touch with prices, but I certainly think I would ask you to carefully consider the financial implications of it, what we're getting into, at least initially here. And I also wonder if anybody in the business community would have better suggestions than a plaza. I haven't heard of any. So anyway, I just wanted to voice my concern and ask you to take a careful look at it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That's all I have on my list. Is there anyone else that would like to address the council? Okay. There have been some changes to the agenda as noted here, which brings us to the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to move item A off of the consent agenda for discussion. Okay, later on tonight. So we were reading about that, we can do it immediately after.
Mr. Mayor, I just have a quick question on B. Don't have any problems with, it, but I just have a few questions, and so I guess to get my questions answered, should I just remove it from the consent agenda?
If it's just a few
Yeah.
questions, then, okay,
Take it off.
all right,
Okay, yeah, just minor questions.
all right, so C through H on the consent agenda.
I would move to approve the consent agenda items be approved.
Second. First and second, any further discussion? All fair say aye.
Aye.
All right, item A.
The concern that I have with this, do we have a final sign off, by the county on this project? By the commissioners?
What do you mean by final?
In other words, if they said, yes, the county
Yeah,
is
okay,
fully
we have a-
behind this.
You have a signed document of what you.
I know we have the MOU. Where is the revenue coming from to cover this $349,000?
Lodging tax,
Pardon?
lodging tax.
The lodging tax? Okay. Well, that covers, that's the 355, right? Okay.
And it's already budgeted, a large portion of that is budgeted for 2024. So then it would be up to council to budget it for 2025, the remaining portion that will need to be done next fiscal year.
Or council could decide not to spend that money and save it for something else or spend it on a different issue, on another project, correct?
So if council doesn't decide to spend the money on this, then we would need to pay or the sunk cost of what's already been spent, because we wouldn't be able to get the grant money because we wouldn't meet the obligations of that grant, which is to get construction.
And so those sunk costs are at this point about what?
$200,000.
Okay. But when I studied business, one of the things we were always cautioned on when it came to sunk cost is to always base your is to ignore your sunk cost. And if you were to make that same decision going forward, what would you do? And in fact, they call it the sunk cost fallacy, because so many people think, oh, look what we spent, so now we're stuck with it. We have to do this. Right now, our sunk costs are 200,000. What I worry about is our sunk cost becoming over 500,000, and that train going down the road. And then people are going to claim, look, now we got 500,000 into it. And now correct me if I'm wrong, but we don't have any sources of funding for this project guaranteed at this point. I mean, as far as from any funds we could get Murray Press to lobby for us, or an RCO grant approved. Is that?
We have applications in process.
But we have no way of knowing whether we're going to get that funding, but yet we're going to spend an additional 355,000 of city controlled money, tax dollars, on a project that we don't even know if it'll happen. Right?
You need to talk to council. It's
No,
not my decision,
I'm
so-
asking,
Based upon what our revenue sources are right now, written down, you're correct, Pat.
so, yeah, I am opposed to this project. Because of that. Because I think, and the reason I am is because I think whether our needs, what we absolutely need for the city, and we've had this big discussion on sewer needs and stuff like that, and the infrastructure, what we need, and there's our wants. And I think if we want the public's trust in us to get us higher than I feel it is, I think if we spend a year or two concentrating only on our needs and think we're gonna do as good a job as possible on what we need, what we truly need to function as a city, and we're just gonna concentrate on that. And then
Are you
we're,
suggesting that we haven't been concentrating our needs up to now?
I'm suggesting that this project is too expensive and that we can't afford it.
A little bit, the project cost itself, there's gonna be from outside sourcing. If those outside sourcing doesn't happen, then you're right, the project doesn't get off.
But it's 500,000 and it's out the window that we spent. I don't think we can afford it. That's all I'm saying. That's just my thought as one
So,
person.
so I guess my question is, if the funding, the grant sources aren't approved, how much money are we out? If the grants don't come through for the revenue for the project.
Then we'll keep trying and it would just be a matter of updating the cost at the end of, because we'll have shovel-ready designs. So we'll just keep applying until we get funding, or the SDA will continue to fundraise until we get funding. We'll just keep going forward until the project is funded.
Right,
Yeah, the design is a requirement to get the funding.
Yes.
Well, what I would suggest is if, I'm wondering if these are the room and board tax funds, right? I don't know if it's true or not, but do we have to own the land? Or, I know, but I've heard, but if we checked,
We have a long-term lease for the land.
I know, but I don't know if it's true or not, but I've heard that those room and board tax money funds can't be used on land unless you own it. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but if we checked with the people that audit those funds on whether this program is even permissible to use the funds for this project, have we asked them? And that I'm directing to you because I'm just asking a
Right.
question.
Right, no, there's conflicting information, because in one audit, it was told that we couldn't use it on the exhibit hall. But when I follow up with MRSC and legal expertise, they say that it can be used on that. So it can be used for property that we don't own, even if it is, as long as it's related to a tourism facility within your jurisdiction. So again, there's a little bit of conflicting information. I never pushed back on that because we were able to fund it through other sources.
Okay, so
But-
we're spending
But no, we
Yeah.
can spend the money on the project.
okay. Thank you for saying that there's conflicting information on that. I'm not trying to be argumentative, but that's what I heard. Let's say that the room and board tax, when I understand it, the people have to come from at least 50 miles away, and you have to show a relationship that they came because of this plaza. Is that those funds?
The events that take place in that plaza are funded through TAC funds
Alright.
already. So it's events that already take place at that location and are already funded with TAC funds.
Okay. So what I'm trying to say is, the point I'll make to council now is that if we can use those funds for this plaza project for events, we can also use these funds for other parks that the city already owns.
We cannot use them for parks.
But you can use them for events. What makes the plaza different than the park? So that's perhaps a question. I don't know.
The events that take place in that location.
Okay, so but we're making the amenities for the events. So I'm confused because this is money for, and I'm not trying to be argumentative, these are really truly questions. So we're using the money for events, or we're using the money for construction that will then bring in the events? And I'm just suggesting, it looks to me like we're using it for construction for an event venue. So couldn't we not create event venues away from busy Highway 14, like with the county, some of the county property, work with them, or do event venues at some of the parks the city already owns? One of the concerns I have about this project is that I feel the county has cold feet on the project, and we could spend $500,000 of tax dollars, and the county, under that MOU agreement, has the right to say, no, we don't like the plan. And that is in the language. So we could, in other words, the county has questions about this project as well, so they're getting cold feet on it. And we're gonna, also, we know we're gonna have different county commissioners in November, so how do we know that they're even gonna be excited about the project to approve it? One of the things I found is that I would feel a lot better about this project, and this will be my last point. At this stage of the discussion, I would feel a lot better if the county and the port and the school district were on board and said, so excited about the project, that they were also helping fund it, that they were helping maintain it. Because I know that we've talked about using volunteers to maintain that, but the pumps and stuff that I've seen in the blueprints that would go underneath the splash pad are complex. And even when I've traveled to Mexico and stuff, you know what I've seen around all their central parks? I've seen paid staff going through daily, picking up litter and maintaining those parks. So, but yet I've not heard of what our maintenance budget is gonna be. So I'm very concerned about the maintenance cost of maintaining that.
Maintenance budget is in the parks plan, estimated maintenance budget for all the parks projects in the 6-year are in the parks plan.
Well, I'm concerned about expending, okay, that's good to know, but I'm concerned about the expense of that too as well, I think. And also it is a very, the citizen I talk to in the street, whether it's old timers or I'm just not hearing a lot of enthusiasm among the people I represent for this project, and that is coming from within the city limits.
So the city has done multiple surveys. The county chamber of commerce has done multiple surveys. All of the surveys show a majority of people supporting the project.
Not
So
a
I
bad
guess,
plan.
so, right, not who you're talking to. But again, the surveys that have been done, what else does the council need? I've been asking the county commissioners what they want. Council, what do you want to move this project forward? What validation do you need? Do you want to spend more money doing surveys, or do you want to kill the project now and put us out of our misery? Like, seriously, this is ridiculous.
I just have one question. But the latest design is still include restaurants, right?
Yes,
And those restrooms could be put at Walnut Park across the street.
I guess what I would like to see is, I would like to see a letter from the commissioners signed off on the project. Rather than just the MOU. I want to see them put their names on paper saying, this is what we want to see go forward on the county property. That's what I would like to see. And Liana, I don't downplay the amount of work that has gone into this project to get it to this point. I am just really concerned that we're gonna put in, $500,000 into just the design stage of this. And have a shovel-ready plan. But then we have, on top of that, then we have all the construction costs that have to go along with this. And I want to make sure that when we put that kind of money down, we are going to be guaranteed that it's going to move forward without any restrictions by the county. That's where I'm at with this.
so if I get a letter now with this commissioners, with 2 of them being gone, will that be enough?
Contract.
That's the contract that we have.
We need to get a contract with the next phase.
What's that, Ben?
But what's the difference between that contract and the contract we have now? Like that's what Scott's saying. It's like their validation and support of the project is the contract.
Right, so the last round of commissioners who got the contract that we have now all supported it. So then that brought us to where we are now. Like, we already had the commissioners change every 2 years. You get new people in all the seats.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess, and this project's gonna take more than 2 more years, so you're gonna have more change again. So what are we talking about, right? Like, eventually,
It's not 100% turnaround in 2 years.
well, not 100, not
It's a
all the time.
majority.
It's a majority. I'm not saying you're wrong, Dave. Like, I understand the idea, but I was also in those discussions with Tom and even with the people before that, with Doug McKenzie and, Bob Hamlin. And like, I've been in those discussions with them about this project. And whether or not they were supportive and coming to this point. So we've had agreement. It's just moving this project forward. It's been really slow. It's been a hard process to get to here. So at what point do you say we're gonna move forward, or we're just not gonna do it at all? I don't know where the line is.
And I agree with Pat that one of the concerns I have is the maintenance. You know, you're talking a splash pad that's gonna be, you're gonna have pumps, all those kinds of things. And I don't know if we have got all of the answers to how you're gonna maintain that. Are we pushing chlorinated water through that? I mean, are there requirements health-wise as far as, you know, or does it have to be pool quality water that you're pumping through it?
Yeah, well, I know this question has been asked, this came up, maybe it was 2 meetings ago, about the water, and then when we were in the parks plan, the actual budget for keeping all that stuff was listed out, and that came during the parks plan discussion.
Right.
So I mean, these questions have been asked by the people who are going to be doing the actual, you know, making sure that it's maintained based on whether it's hiring or whatever it is. It's in the documents that we've gone through for both the parks plan and the plan just by itself, because we talked about the water and the splash pad, like that came up in our parks plan discussion in that meeting. I'm not saying you got the answer you wanted, but it absolutely came up.
What percentage design are we at? 30? Not even 15?
Probably about 15.
Yeah. I hate to see everyone spinning their wheels on this because like in reality, a lot of this stuff can change like through the design phase. You aren't approving 100% design plan set. You'd be approving the continued evaluation of the project. So you can still tailor that to meet what your dreams are for that space.
Seems like this.
Like you have time for that.
Yeah, so you'd be approving the $355,000 to find out answers to those questions. One of the things that I've discovered I've had commissioners tell me that they didn't know anything about the splash pad until recently, and it was a new thing. I think, you know, one of the things I've learned is that people have a right to change their mind. You know, and right now we can change our mind, and we've spent 200,000, and we could save 355,000 on a project that might not even get off the ground. One of the things is this project was supposed to be countywide benefit to bring people together. I see this project dividing people, and it's very controversial. And sure, just barely people have supported it, but that's been finite. I mean, like 51-49%. I mean, it's been very close. So here we have a center that, I mean, I know the benefit of central areas where people can come together. It's just kind of ironic that a project designed to bring people together is, in fact, I feel, kind of tearing people apart. And I think if we just stop this project now, and as you said, maybe I would vote to put it to death. And then, those are your words, not mine, but that's how I would vote.
Well, that's what would happen.
Yeah, because
It's been going since 2012.
I know, and
This
that's,
isn't the first time.
yeah,
That
I
people
know.
have tried to do something on the plaza.
Well, right. Well, the thing is sometimes when something is so hard and it never gets done, there's a reason for that. And there's a lot of low hanging fruit that we could get done for our town and what we call a city. We could get done, and it could benefit the people now that live here for a lot cheaper. So that's why I have the position I have as one vote.
Are we ready for a
No, we're not. I'm looking at the parks plan right here on the City of Stevenson website. It says project DCG Watershed Consultants, 95% complete, budget 100K, funding 100K from RCO. Plan completion date, March 21, 2024. That's a far cry from a $500,000.
That hasn't been up to,
What's that?
No, this is for the parks
That's-
plan.
that's,
That's
yeah.
the park plan that we've completed. That's not for the plaza.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're absolutely correct.
The one fact or point that I don't think has been brought up. So far with this project, we've got 147 reimbursed to us for those design costs from the state Department of or Recreation and Conservation Office. And so withdrawing from this means that we're repaying that amount to the state. And so it's not just, you have to do the delta in there for tax dollars out. So right now there's 147 statewide tax dollars into this. That would need to be Stevenson only tax dollars if you pull away from finalizing the design on this rate.
Okay, yeah, I get what you're saying. Pal, I get what you're saying with the hotel motel tax money, because I sit on that board. Yes, that is discretionary money that basically comes in every year, and agencies apply for that. City applied for, I think, two things, Leona. One was the Arts Plaza, and then the other was the wayfind. I think it was the wayfinding signs. So we have the ability to direct those funds wherever we feel that they're most appropriate. I'm concerned that we're putting in $500,000 into it, but at the same time, like Ben says, part of that $500,000, almost 150,000, correct?
At this point.
At this
the
point.
total grant.
So the total grant's 147, but that I included that in the 200,000. So basically I haven't asked for reimbursement because I haven't received a solid answer from the county.
Okay.
And I didn't know if they were pulling the plug, but the last meeting that they had, so,
So the last word that you had is they are not gonna pull the plug?
yeah.
Okay, that isn't the way I interpret it. I interpret it, they haven't made a decision yet. I'm not, actually,
There's no consensus on pulling the plug on the project.
okay, but there's no consensus on going forward with the project either. That's what, and I think
Yeah.
that's what you were asking for.
Contract is signed.
Okay, but that's the MOU, the agreement of understanding.
So I guess, so for me,
You see, so,
if I can't rely on a contract that people have signed, I can't rely on anything, and I can't get any work done.
okay, but.
That's
well,
true. That is
So,
true.
so I am going based off of the signed contract and moving forward in that, and that is exactly what I posed to the commissioners, and they did not oppose what was proposed as far as the actions that needed to be taken.
Okay, but what Dave, what you suggested might be a good compromise here in that we don't approve the funds tonight and we ask for stronger commitment from the county so that they don't pull the rug out from this rug out from under us later. So it could be, hey, it could be, are you in on this or what? I mean, it could be, we find out, really, are they in favor of this? Are they in favor of this project? One of the things I've heard them say is that they are worried about their constituency, whether they're properly representing them by approving this contract, and they're getting a lot of feedback that the county residents don't like this project. And so with
The county.
county and city residents are county residents too, okay? So they represent, the county commissioners represent the people inside the city limits as well, because they're county residents. So they have a responsibility to our city residents just as we do. And one of the things I've heard them suggest that, and I don't know if they're followed through or they intend to, is an advisory vote that they would put forward to find out how the county residents vote on this. And I'd be a lot more comfortable with something like that to where we just have an up and down vote by the residents, an advisory vote. And have that be a condition of this, because those surveys that are done aren't really, I mean, one person can fill out 5 of those, whether it's somebody in favor of the project or somebody against the project. An advisory vote's different. You know that that's the vote. And not only that, then the citizens have decided the issue. So I think we could go to the county and say, hey, are you gonna do an advisory vote? We could get a stronger commitment from them, and it might be an advisor that they
There was
would.
no consensus on that advisory vote. at
See,
the
that's
commissioner level.
what
And
concerns me.
so for me, I couldn't see a vote moving that advisory vote forward at the county level.
Okay, but I'm saying if they saw this discussion here and they knew we were gonna come to them and say, hey, we need to know where you're at on this. Commissioner Mahar, are you in favor of this project? Commissioner Lannon, are you in favor of this project? Commissioner Lecky, are you in favor of this project? Yes or no? I'd like, what's wrong with having them on the record say, yes, I think this is a great project. I think that's what you were looking for. Now, maybe I'm wrong.
Well, I think, and yes, we have the signing MOU and everything, but there's still those discussions between the commissioners about, I don't like the ambiguity that the commissioners have going on about this project. Either you're for it or you're against it.
Mhm.
Now, yeah, we have the MOU, but the discussions that continue to be raised with the commissioners, and correct me if I'm wrong, that there's some waffling going on. So, Liana, what is your take of those 3 commissioners?
2 of them are gone.
So
2 of them are gonna be gone in October, so.
I know.
Because they're not running again, so they really won't be involved in the project, whether they like it or not.
I mean, originally, the key point in the whole project was it wouldn't cost the county anything. And they were fine with us moving forward with the project.
With the understanding that they would get,
They may need more liability insurance.
they would get final approval of the design.
Right.
So they're comfortable signing.
Because they didn't really have to make a commitment on anything. We could spend all the money, including $500,000, and then they could say, oh, we don't like it. Politically, it's not advantageous to us. And in fact, you're right. We got 2 new commissioners coming on. They could say, well, you know what? We don't like it. Our constituents have made it clear. And we're not going to take the political heat on this. So you're out the window.
If
Maybe-
they don't move forward in good faith on this, then we will be having recourse with the county.
Or if we would sue the county?
We would have discussions as to what the offer would be.
Okay, so that would create World War III within our county over a
So-
park that was meant to
It's,
bring us
no,
together.
no, what I'm
No.
talking about is moving forward in good faith
Wait,
on a
wait,
signed
wait.
contract.
Okay, wait, let's lower our voices here.
Yeah.
No, basically, our only recourse would be to sue the county.
That's,
That's
Okay,
not what I said.
okay, but no, that is what I'm saying. I'm saying that would
Okay.
be our only recourse. And so we would never do that, of course. So that means the MOU is just a memorandum of understanding. It's saying this is what we're thinking of doing at this point in time. It's not enforceable. So there we are.
It's enforceable to a point.
Yes.
I guess I would say this, knowing the language in the MOU and knowing that we could have a change, but there are also recourses within that MOU, as Leon has pointed out. What the ramifications of those repercussions would be. It could get ugly. It could maybe not get ugly. I think a lot of it depends on who we get in there with the 2 new commissioners.
So one one thing that, oh, sorry, I apologize.
I would think that I have a real hard time swallowing putting out $500,000. I really do. I'm interested to see what happens after the election and where that goes. Part of that 500,000, is additional funds going to be coming in regards to the RCO?
Not if we don't have to get shovel-ready design by the end of the year, no.
But what I'm saying is if we move forward with this, what kind of funding are we looking at additional funding?
We've applied to RCO for $500,000.
For another 500,000, okay,
That would be to construct the splash pad.
yeah,
There is no other RCO.
There's no other RCO funding,
For design.
right? There's no other design
for the actual construction.
for the actual
itself.
construction.
And are we stuck with the splash pad in the design?
That's a decision that has yet to be made. It's one of the, I think it was one of the 5 amenities, like top 5 amenities.
Okay.
When the survey went out, it's been identified in the parks plan as well as a need or something for kids to do and play in. It's also been identified as a way to deter encampments and a way to create passive activity. So when nothing's going on in the park, something's going on in the park.
So this project started out as a business association or downtown association project, and they were running with it. But there was some state allocated funds that could not go to that organization. So they needed to get a different entity to be a point organization. That's how the city got in. The idea was that the business association would continue to do the fundraising because it is kind of a big deal as far, it is what started the business association. So when we were talking about splash pad, the last time we were in front of the commissioners, Kelly reminded us, don't forget about your partner, or actually we are their partner. We are willing to participate in the fundraising, especially for the splash pad. So there is a partner in this, okay? And willing, and they do have a fundraising mechanism. So don't feel like this is entirely on the city. And the whole project has been, the idea has been little, if none, taxpayer money for the construction of it once we get rolling.
I.e. using the hotel motel.
Various
monies.
different types of
Yes,
grants,
as
etc.
opposed to general fund type of monies.
Create excitement in the downtown. And actually, if we're talking about businesses, the businesses are very supportive. And actually, one business owner was very disappointed that we settled for the size that we did. Was very disappointed that it wasn't going to be the plaza that was touted for the last 10 years on the lawn. So there is support.
I think Pat, you and I are we're kind of down the same road on this, but I think that there is a point in politics where, and I say this with tongue in cheek, that you have to trust the other politicians at some point. I am nervous about the new commissioners coming in because I don't know where they're gonna be on this, and I get that. But at the same time, this is tourism money that has been brought in because of that. And we do have the business association behind this. And I think that the group, when we were going over this, think we had the hope that we would be able to be a strong partner in this. Now, whether or not it's gonna end up that way, I don't know. I would hope that we can figure out where to go on this, but in order to move forward, we would have to okay the additional 355,000, is that right?
What is the problem with asking the three commissioners, each of them, for a letter or an email saying that they support this project? And then we would, and if they write letters saying that they support this project and they stand behind it, and that they hope that the next commissioners will honor what their commitment, we could then vote on it in the next council meeting in 2 weeks. My vote probably wouldn't change, but we would have more information. What I'm thinking is we don't have strong partners now. And the partners are probably, so we have weak, wobbly partners now. And I'm not saying that in a derogatory way.
Right, well,
So, and
how could be
it might,
anyway?
I'm saying that it may be a wise course of action for them to be weak and wobbly on this project. I'm weak and wobbly. I'm not supporting it, and it could be, I'm not putting them down if they don't support it. I don't think all three of them do support this project. And so I think we're spending 335,000 on a project that may never happen, and that's why my vote is the way it is so far. So I'm just saying, why don't we just point blank ask them for documentation that they are strong supporters of this project? Because that's a reasonable thing to ask from a business standpoint when you're gonna invest 355,000 or whatever it is of city money. Now, I mean, I think the people in other words, I feel I represent the citizens that live here. And I think the businesses have rightfully lobbied hard for this project. But I think what's been left out of the equation is there equally strong support of the people that live here? And that is what I'm missing. I'm not seeing.
The survey results multiple times have proven that there's support.
There's very weak support. It's marginal. You could just as well say by 10 people that it goes the other way too. I mean, it's.
Liana, let me ask you this. Could I propose a motion that would be contingent on receiving a letter from the commissioner signing off on this? Does that make sense?
I'm not sure how that would go, because if they said they do not support it, then they would probably be inclined to break the MOU, break the contract. That's what that would essentially be. So you're asking them to do that if they.
I'm asking them to break the contract.
If they can't support it in this fashion that you're suggesting, then they will have to understand that the next step is for them to just say, kill the project.
We're asking them to fish or cut bait, I think. Because they're wanting, in other words, it's city money, $500,000 that will be down the drain if they don't sign off on it. I mean, it's easy for them to sit back and say, hey, it's not county money, it's city money, do what you want, but we have a right to change our mind on this. But it's the city funds that are going away if this project never happens.
And what is the county's responsibility on the MOU then? To provide us with the opportunity to build this on city property?
County.
On the county courthouse farm.
That's the gist of.
They have veto.
It outlines that the city will carry the liability insurance. And it outlines a bunch of other things as well.
And then
That will renegotiate the size, depending on what the size of the lawn is. And then they can maintain the rest of it. It outlines the time frame. It outlines maintenance requirements. It outlines reserve requirements. It outlines a lot of things that were discussed over multiple special meetings between the council and the county.
Is it not true we have another meeting in a couple weeks? So,
Next week, we have a
Next.
special.
yeah, so we have in a week, we have another meeting. So this could be put on that agenda and we could find out, we could ask the three commissioners whether or not they support the project and get it
They're
documented.
closed tomorrow and I will need to confirm with their clerk that they have room on their agenda to put it on the day before their agenda. Our urgency doesn't mean it's theirs.
That is,
Well,
that is true.
yeah, well, I think though that whenever there's some urgent, you need to vote on it now. We're talking about,
Can I help this too? So you're not spending that extra 300K tonight. You're authorizing that to be spent. If we give word at any time before that's spent, that the county's out of this project, then that money is spent.
we're signing an agreement. I mean, we're contracting, we're signing a contract for somebody's, what?
For deliverables to be produced.
Yeah,
We
but
no
it's
longer
a
ask them-
$355,000
So then
contract.
let me ask you this then. So this contract is not carte blanche, 355,000, and you guys gotta give us this stuff. So is it based on a tiered approach? In other words,
There are milestones within that contract.
okay,
So-
If the need is no longer there, then they
So if
will be
they're-
asking for the milestones to be met, so they won't be putting in any work.
Right, so if they don't want to, if they don't deliver a 60% design, if we don't ask them to deliver a 60% design, they'll stop at 30, they'll stop at 60, or they'll stop, when we ask them to stop. Granted, they'll bill us the cost that they've incurred up to date,
right,
but if we ask them to stop at 60, we wouldn't have to pay them the 90% design or even the 100% design. Because they won't deliver it.
that,
I'm just confused. I've never seen a thing where you have to vote on this tonight because you can't wait a week. That confuses me, but
well,
whatever.
I think.
I guess my other concern is, okay, so you had a commission 2 years ago that was for it because they approved the MOU. You'll have a commission in a few months that is gonna be completely different. Do you want another letter then? Like, I guess, when does it stop?
Every election, we're gonna need a new letter from the new commissioners saying they're
Now,
for it or not.
I feel more comfortable knowing that we can pull out of this contract at any time.
I'd have to review that contract again. I don't know if that's true, I'd have to review the wording, because that's what. I have to review it again for me to be comfortable with that, to know what the penalties and stuff were for that. I mean, I hear what staff is saying. But I also hear staff saying that we have to vote on this tonight, like it's some sort of emergency and we can't vote on it in a week. That's what,
I'm saying that I don't know that I can get what you want in a week.
but well, why don't we vote on it in a week then to give Mr. Cox and I time to review the contract in detail so we ourselves can read what it says in terms of what happens if we pull out. So
Well,
is there any reason we could not be voting on this in 1 week?
I have read the scope of work. But I have not seen where there is anything. I have not actually, let me get down.
See, that's what I'm saying is take a week to read that in detail to see if that is in fact as easy as it is said. It might be true. So I don't understand the rush, why we can't make a decision in a week. Let's say that decision in a week has nothing to do with the commissioner's
So the
commitment.
contract, the contract itself, we do not have that in front of us.
Yeah.
You have the contract, you have the contract amendment. Do you want the original contract?
Well, I'm scrolling through here and I see what they sent.
Yeah, and then
Their
the
services.
amendment is the first two pages.
Oh, okay, excuse me.
But you can. What I'm saying is, you mean, Dave can't take a week to study this and I can't take a week to look at it again? Is that what you're saying? Why is that a problem? I'm just curious.
I just don't know if we need a week to study this because I'm just looking the acceptance and the complete agreement. I mean, it's a paragraph.
Okay,
One moment. Are you ready to make a motion or at least to vote?
I call that rushing him. Why don't we let him read the paragraph?
Yeah, I'm the same.
Because I think he may be wanting to vote more than you want the understanding of it. That's why I think you're rushing it.
Just a paragraph from exchange.
I know, and I think we should have that at one apart. It has to be $500,000 or it's $4 million restroom.
that I don't see where it's gonna be an issue. Unless pulling out. This is an addendum to the contract that's already in place.
Yeah, well, for me, I'm not gonna sit here and read a contract and try to. Because I don't have time to follow up with questions and stuff, and you can already see the pressure to hurry up the vote. So that's why I'm not gonna go.
We're
through
not
and
trying to
something.
hurry up the vote. This has been going on for an hour.
Okay, well, there should be a healthy discussion. I need expense this big. I'm just kind of confused on why this can't be put on the agenda for 1 week from now and voted on then. That's what I haven't heard a good answer to.
What do you want in a week?
I would study your I'm just saying, you haven't given me a good reason why this could not be put on the agenda and when we can vote it on that.
You need to talk to your council members as
No.
far as what they want to do,
You're the
because it's
one
their
that-
agenda and it's their.
But you were the one that asked me the question just now. What would happen in a week?
You keep
So-
looking at me and asking me why I can't delay it a week. I'm not the one doing any deciding right now. It is the
Okay,
council that
okay.
decides what takes place at the agenda
And
items.
I am advocating for the council that they just take 1 week and re-vote on this in 1 week. That's all I'm asking.
And Pat, I don't know if we need to go,
Okay. Okay.
because I'm reading this.
Yeah.
It says I'm gonna just read it right now so
Okay.
that you can hear it. The amendment shall constitute an increase in scope and fee and the extension of the contract scheduled to expire on December 31st, 2024. The scope and fee increase is outlined in the attached Exhibit A. The contract is hereby extended through June 30, 2025. The passage of the contract expiration date as recorded above shall not extinguish, prejudice, or limit either party's right to enforce this amendment with respect to any default or defect in performance that has not been cured.
Yeah, but none of that language says that we can get out of the contract. None of the stuff you read.
Let me finish
Okay.
here. Just relax. This amendment constitutes a supplement to the contract. So this is a supplement to the original contract
Okay.
that we've already approved, okay? Except as specifically modified herein, all terms of the contract remain in full force and effect. The terms of the contract, together with the terms of this amendment, embodies the whole agreement between the parties, and there are no inducements, promises, terms, conditions, or obligations made or entered into by either the city or the contractor other than contained herein. The parties hereby certify the person executing this agreement on behalf of the city and the contractor have legal authority to enter into the agreement on behalf of the city and the contractor and are able to bind the city and the contractor in a valid agreement on the terms herein. So this is an amendment to our contract.
I know, but there's nowhere in there, it's a 355, if we don't approve this, then we don't spend the $355,000, right? If we approve this, then we spend the $355,000, correct?
Well, if, depending on their deliverables.
Yeah, so what I'm trying to say, and what you just read, I did not hear any language at all that talks about getting out of that contract. And that is, so none of the language you had said that you can get out of it based on 30%, 60%, or 90%. And that's what I thought you were looking for. But it's, what you read, it's not there. I'm just saying that then it goes back to the original contract. And I would like to go back and read that original contract and see if that has that language in there that staff says that it's so easy to get out of. And I don't understand why that caution for 1 week. I mean, in 1 week, let's say I'm the only no vote on this in a week. You got your votes. What's the problem? What's the problem with the delay for 1 week?
Okay, I'd make a motion to table this for, a vote for, next week. At our meeting, at the start of the meeting.
Do we have enough time to post that it's going to be a special meeting as opposed to a workshop?
It already is a special meeting, I think.
I'll see what I said.
At least when I looked on the city website, it said city council meeting. On the website, it does say special meeting.
Quick question, Pat, is it possible that your mind would change in a week?
I think you need to direct your, I'm just, direct your questions to
What's
that.
that?
No, I was just curious
I think,
whether your mind could be changed. It was meeting.
I think
He
you
just wants
that,
to clarify what the
Yeah,
contract says.
yeah. And
Oh,
I-
so your mind could be changed in a week? With new
So-
information?
Pat's,
Oh.
Pat's mind's not gonna be changed.
But
Speak to Pat, I don't know.
That's what I'm curious.
I think basically I heard the questions that Mr. Cox asked. And I did not hear an answer to his questions. They gave him, so in other words, is what was said in the contract that it's easy to get out of. And so I would like Mr. Cox to be able to read that contract and find that language in there. And then I would also like to go back and find that language in there and read that and understand it totally.
If
Because
you
that
found
is,
it, would your mind be changed?
his mind might be,
No, if you found it, would your mind be changed?
you know,
I think Dave can probably speak for himself.
yeah, but I'm trying to say, I think it's an,
Yeah, if it's just a week for Pat's mind, I don't know.
oh, so then why, let's just spend the 355,000, let's just treat it lightly.
Was the motion made?
No, motion to table it for a week. It's the last motion that I heard.
And I second that motion.
There is further discussion, Dave, in the week that we're gonna wait. Is it like if, will you be going over this? Finding
If I
the,
find anything in that contract that allows me to say, this is only based off deliverables.
Mhm.
If that's what that contract states, then yeah, I will probably, approve or vote to approve this amendment. That's what I'm looking for. And from what Ben says, it's based solely off of deliverables.
and if wording that you're looking for. Either for pro or not is not in there, then the project's done. Cause that's the vote. This vote says whether the project moves forward. Okay, all right. then
Yeah.
That's all I want to say. We've got a first and a second. We can vote.
We do have a first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
I,
Any opposed? So two,
Wait, do we need three to make it go through? Then I'll.
Not on this, I don't
Oh,
think, 'cause
okay,
it's
then I'll-
not.
all right, so this will be on the agenda in a week's time.
Yeah.
thank you.
Alrighty,
D.
county building inspector agreement, Pat, you had questions?
Oh, yeah, I just had a question. What I got confused about is, I know that we approved, the, cloud permitting system, and I was getting confused, and apparently there's some, issues between the county and the city on the systems, connecting up. So what does this amendment do to the, cloud permitting things that the city is internally using? How does it affect that? That's what I was unclear on.
So when we initially went with the contract for cloud permit through the county, and talking with them, cloud permit said that we could use their prime contract for our planning and land use module as well as the code enforcement module. And then when we went to go implement it, sales team doesn't talk to implementation team, and that wasn't the case.
In other words, they couldn't get their money out of this.
No, so we have different forms, we have different codes, and we couldn't piggyback on the county because we're slightly different than what they have. And so we have to have our own
Software.
we have to have our own license for the land use and code enforcement modules.
Okay, so I'm just curious what that did with the expenditure we had, and I've forgotten the amount, but did that make that expenditure null and void like it wasn't, or?
The $4,000 we approved
Yeah.
at the last meeting?
Yeah.
No, that was what we're talking about now. This is the second part of it.
Okay,
We had a
okay,
contract with the county for it, and so we
Okay.
needed to.
okay. And then my only other follow-up question was, not follow-up, but a question was, and it's probably not related to the motion or to the thing, but, are people gonna be, to file for a permit, are they gonna be required to get online and set up an account and use the cloud permitting process, or can they start walk in and file for permits?
They would have to walk in and use our computer to file for a permit. It's all online.
Okay, so everything is online, so and if they didn't wanna sign up for an account, or if it was an elderly person that got confused and because they weren't used to using computers, they just wouldn't be able to file for a permit.
Well, they
unless
can
got
come,
one.
they can come in.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not making an issue of it. I'm just curious, okay, thank you.
And I'm sure the staff would
Would
help.
help.
folks out.
Yeah, just like they would if they were committed to fill
I would
the
hope the
application.
staff would help,
We have a
Yeah.
track record of that
Okay.
to date since it's
Okay.
changed.
Right.
Okay,
because there's a few of us that are getting old with that.
We
I know.
don't-
I mean,
That's-
I'm sure you can figure it out. It's very intuitive. Dave.
All right, do we have more,
I'm trying to figure out what the exact motion needs to be here. The
To
exact-
approve the interlocal agreement amendment number 3.
okay, are we,
Yep, yep.
okay, I would like to make a motion to approve the interlocal, agreement addendum number 3.
second,
Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We do not have a representative from the sheriff's department, but their report is included in your packet. I'd like to open the public hearing at 7:05. So we are going to be talking about the capital improvement program update. So it looks like Carolyn, you're going to give the staff report.
Yes, shouldn't be new to you guys. The last time we talked about it, you shared that, you didn't want to see, there were too many projects on it, and it was confusing, and you didn't feel like you needed to see projects that were already part of the budget, because you felt like you had an opportunity to review those as part of the budget. And so those would be projects within the approval authority of, the mayor and the city administrator. So we scrubbed it. So this is, just our projects that are over $250,000. And, also within the next 6 years. So we also took out projects that were too far out, or projects that are currently in construction, so. Shouldn't be new information, but just a little more concise. When do you take, do you have public comment right now?
Well, we did staff report, and is that it? In
I
report?
think, yeah.
All right, so this is the part where we open up for public comment on the capital improvement plan.
Which was it? Where are you? You kind of flipped around there on us.
It's 6A.
You say it, that's what you were talking about, basically, kind of about that. I didn't quite catch what you were saying, because you were like to turn that way.
Yep, so the capital improvement program, list that is in the council packet. These guys have seen it all and, it's the shrub, so it's only the projects that are relevant to this conversation.
Oh, so it's.
So it's not the capital facilities plan, which includes all of our maintenance and, all our projects that we know of from now until eternity. It's just the projects that are within the next 6 years and, greater than the procurement policy, for, procurement of
I guess
services.
my comment is what happened from part C, D, E, F, G, H before that.
You're talking about the
You're talking
consent
about the
agenda?
Yeah, we
agenda?
just skipped through a bunch of stuff.
No, that's consent agendas
Oh.
typically approved in one motion, except for the items that are taken off, which were A and B that were taken off. And
So I
so
just saw something about that I was wondering, approved resolution 2024-4336 authorizing road closure.
we're not there yet.
Oh, because why did you go to 6 then?
That's in the consent. agenda.
Oh, I guess that is in consent. Sorry, I forgot. So that was already
Oh,
approved.
it's at the beginning here.
Okay, so just to keep the
Anyway,
public
yeah.
hearing tidy,
Anyone that has.
are there any comments regarding the capital improvement plan?
I just want to know.
Yeah, next meeting.
Specifically.
No?
That include roads and
closure. It's not Maple Automated. We're doing resurfacing on the west side, so it's just closing so that they can do, the resurfacing. There's gonna be detours for them and local access.
Okay.
All right, I'd like to close the public hearing at 7:09. Council?
At the last workshop, I'll comment, I guess no one else is gonna go first, so I'll go for that. At the last thing, we talked about the Columbia Avenue realignment project, and there was kind of consensus about putting that down the road. But I see that, it's on this list.
As being constructed in 2026. I revised the start dates to be, consistent with when, design or any kind of like funding acquisition all the way through. So some of these will have gotten longer and include timeframes that are a little bit earlier. So,
Because they started the design process a lot sooner.
yeah, because we've been in like the feasibility analysis phase, but I mean, in essence, what you guys want to look at would be the last year. So the last year would be your construction year and the year before that would be your design year. So for the Columbia Avenue realignment project, 2026 would be the construction year and 2025 would be.
But 2024 and 2025, then if we leave this on here as the way it is, we could actively be working on it and spending money and
We
design
could
and
be
everything.
asked
So really, that isn't putting that project off down the road. It's leaving it front and center for the staff to work on, right?
I'm not super familiar with that one, but I believe it is being advanced. So we were looking for funding.
Yeah, I just thought that the consensus was that that project would be put on the back burner for now so that the staff could work on other things. That's why my preference would be that the blue line for that be farther, not even starting, so that staff could concentrate on the other things that we really want them to be working on. So that's why my preference would be that if that blue line started 3 or 4 years from now, the beginning stages of it, that would reflect, I thought, the consensus of the council at the last workshop. And
We don't have any current, like funding and grant obligations to continue to work on that project.
No, that project ended last year.
So it could be shifted.
I would just feel better about it if it shifted. I realize it.
Is that the only one you have problems with?
Oh, no, also the Park Plaza is on there. Of course, you know by now that I'm opposed to that
Are you?
project. Yeah, I saw it.
Well,
I think we,
any changes though, we need consensus from council to approve.
Does
all
everyone
those
wanna see
changes.
Columbia
So-
Avenue realignment pushed out?
I thought that consensus already happened, so at the workshop.
Took a lot of
What do you
notes,
guys-
so I may have
what's
missed
that?
that one.
What do you guys think on the proposed timeline for?
So
Columbia
the only thing going on is staff is just continuing to look for funding for it. So if it gets pushed out, we'll stop looking for funding.
Columbia Avenue realignment.
You would have the opportunity to approve any kind of design contracts or any kind of funding contracts. So I don't know that
My,
pushing
my,
it
my
out.
concern is taking it off. And then something comes up federally that says, you know, we got this money, it's available, and it's not in our CIP.
Yeah, right. I was, for me, it was just maybe not a top priority, but I would leave it on there.
Yeah.
So I think that, yeah, I think consensus maybe would be if we can adjust move it down a little bit, not necessarily. I don't want to remove it from the list, but I think that, so.
If there was any discussion about removing.
Right, well, that's what
Yeah,
Dave said,
correct.
don't take it off, just maybe move it.
That
Is
blue
that-
line
is
is that one.
Do you guys feel like it needs to be changed for you to approve the CIP? Okay,
No, not for me.
so that's really the question.
Right,
I can certainly, I can make that change,
Right.
but
I think one of the things too about the CIP that I just want to make sure that neither council members understand where I'm coming from is things when I look at this, I look at immediate infrastructure needs versus future infrastructure needs. And I'm looking at things like, and I know that Levens has a lot of work that needs to be done on it. Russell Avenue is phase 2, School Street Grinding Inlay, Columbia realignment, Frank John's sidewalk loop, the loop road pedestrian improvements. You know, I get all that and I understand why it's on here, but my focus is water and sewer right now. And that's the things that I think the city really needs to be focused on rather than fixing, you know, doing stuff for the pedestrian walkway or whatever. So anyway, that's just my 2 cents on it.
we can often get street projects funded
Yeah.
by others. And typically it's good to pair those with the water and sewer projects.
Right.
So they usually, I mean, the way we have it set up is we don't have it set up to do street projects in a vacuum, or to expend or
Yeah,
to,
they all piggyback on top of one.
yeah, exactly.
So that you have one,
If
you
you're
open up
getting,
the street once,
Do it all.
close it. Yep,
yeah,
and I get that, but
and go and try to get grant funding to
yeah,
pave it on top.
and I understand what you're saying, that but if they're gonna do,
That's a strategy.
so.
but to just go out and do one individual.
Sure, and that's not the plan, that's not, it's on the list, but that's not the plan, it's just to take it and go, let's only do sidewalks, we're not gonna worry about the rest of the street. So, anyway,
Lucy,
Motion to approve resolution 2020-12, adopting the revised capital improvement program.
second,
First and a second, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed?
All right, moving along, public hearing number 2. I'd like to open the public hearing at 7:16. Oh, this is you again, Carolyn, transportation
Yep.
improvement.
So, again, this list of projects you are likely familiar with. The only thing that you wanted to see different about this list was, us to not show projects that were too far out. In essence, our transportation improvement, program is what enabled us to get those street funds for grants for streets. So you're gonna see everything on this, all of the, no matter the price tag, no matter whether it's maintenance or new, all of the street projects that have been identified are gonna be on this program.
and where do those revenues come from?
TIB is a big, Transportation Improvement Board is a big, support for the city. So, they're the ones that funded all the chip seal project on the east side, and they're funding the resurfacing on the west side. they're funding a large portion of First Avenue, the sidewalk there.
So you say they're funding on the west side,
The resurfacing project, yeah, so Foster Creek, Upper Ryan Allen, First Falls. Holly,
so the city's not putting out any money on any of that?
we have like a 5% match, I think. So very low.
One step above that, so mostly these are all gas taxes, either federal or state gas taxes, they'll come
On
to
the
different.
TIB?
schedules. TIB is a state gas tax,
Okay,
and then the match that is required of any of those programs comes from your city funds, which.
Street fund. So the city puts half of the sales tax that we get goes to the street fund.
okay.
And so it comes from sales
Comes out of
tax and then our little portion of gas tax that we get
So
Okay.
city funds, huh?
Okay,
for the 5%.
Okay, there's the.
For any match.
as opposed to coming out of the general fund.
Right.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
Hang on,
I had my
let's
head-
stay true to form, shall we? Is your presentation over, Karen?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good.
All right,
I
this is the point,
apologize.
me too. This is the point where we open up to public comment. Is there anyone here that would like to speak to council regarding the transportation improvement plan?
Yes, there was 3 streets that were put on newspaper in 22 in the summer for improvements. Paving, and I was wondering what happened to those 3 streets. I believe you got funding for it, but it was
Lake,
listed. as
talking about
summer.
Lakeview and,
We
One of
didn't
them
get-
was Maple Alameda.
So we didn't get, or are we just commenting or am I free to answer? We didn't have funding for any of those projects.
oh,
Um,
It was in the newspaper and announced.
I'm not familiar with that,
They
but
posted it.
Well,
anyway, we didn't
anyway.
get funding.
Oh, you didn't?
No, we didn't go get funding.
Oh,
TIB did
so how
not-
did you get it for the other ones, but not those?
If you let me finish.
Okay.
TIB doesn't fund, projects that aren't paved already, so, it is city funds to pave currently, gravel roads.
That's ours.
That's Maple Alameda.
Yes.
And that would be city funds.
That's
City.
identified on this
So,
plan in
yes.
2025, construction in 2027.
So what is the plan?
Well, survey is the first thing. And
that'll start in 2025. We'll start doing the design. And then through 2025, 2026, then construction 2027.
At
that
95,
include
at
emergency?
95,000, it does not include property acquisition for emergency turnaround.
What about new buildings?
New buildings?
New construction, there's supposed to be different rules. New
Yes.
Construction
the new
is what Mary Ann
construction.
Duncan Cole said.
Yep, that's the information we received.
I'm not familiar with that.
Okay, well,
We can give it.
I
But
have it right here.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with the code, just 'cause she wrote it in a letter. Can you
No,
know,
that's a response that we've had from supply.
I sent it in an email.
I wasn't on that email. Yeah, I'm not on the city
It
council.
says,
over
again, the
emails.
written standards we have for fire apply to new construction. And it's fire season.
Well, and so if
Yeah.
those standards apply to new construction, then we make the developer do those improvements.
It doesn't apply to new construction.
So I can do
If-
the, I can
if
put
it-
an
if it were-
emergency right away at the end of the street.
Yeah,
Is that okay?
I'll do that. We'll do
If
it.
you
okay,
provide.
this is about
so-
just comment about the plan.
No, I just want
generally.
emergency.
We want
Wanna
to get
know what your-
understood.
to our
We want to
letters
dig down
you're
into
asking.
making that happen. We can talk about that when we're ready to move forward. But this is, we've heard your comments, yes.
About streets.
Understood. Any other comments? Hearing none. I'd like to close the public hearing at 7:21. Council?
So, well, I went first last time, so I'll pause and read.
I'll move to approve resolution 2024-434, adopting the 2025-2030 transportation improvement plan.
We have a first and a second. Any further discussion?
Yes. So on the gravel roads, then, that's the city pays for all that then, right? Paving the gravel roads, right?
We do.
Okay, as part of paving them, do you then, let's say it's not designed up to a street, do you then, before do you ever pave them without bringing them up to the street standards?
Yes,
Okay, so it doesn't mean you'd bring it up to street standards and stuff if you
correct. It does not mean we didn't bring it up to street
were
standards.
required to, so there's nothing in the code to require that. Okay, now on the gravel road that the staffers mentioned, Maple Alameda, is there? And that's been that way for a long time, and I did read the Mr. Stafford's email, and I'm sure the rest of the council did too. And that's been that way. Is there any reason that project couldn't be moved up to a higher priority than what it is here? Since we have citizens here that are concerned about that. And there's probably unanimity among the residents along there that that gravel road be paved.
That project is in alignment with other projects in the area, and that's why it was located in that year.
The problem I have is just one person is that the blanket policy, we're gonna pave all graveled roads. And sometimes that doesn't make sense because for example, the Delray Avenue thing, 100% of the neighbors adjacent to that area, at this point anyway, did not want it paved. So even though that project, I appreciate the fact that that project is way into the future. I'd be more supportive of this program if it didn't have pie in the sky projects on it that probably are never going to be done. That if it was just more cleaned up and projects like that did not meet the common sense test, meaning citizens wanted it done, we're even on it. Because I, for one, I don't want to support something and vote for something and then have residents say to me, why did you vote for a project that we don't want? That's the dilemma I have. So
We
anyway,
need to educate them on what exactly we voted for.
well, aren't you gonna, at least you know why, if that remains on there, why I'll be voting no, because it's easy to say, I voted no because I didn't support the projects that were on the list.
Yeah, again, the TIV is every project. It is the pie in the sky projects as well, because if we don't put them on there, then we can't.
The austerity part in me or the fiscal part of me doesn't want anything that's pie in the sky on these lists. So anyway, that's where I'm at. So
Any other discussion?
So Carolyn, help me out understand. What is the difference between gravel?
Mhm,
For example, Maple Alameda says gravel.
mhm.
Now, I know what gravel means to me, and I know what overlay means to me. So
Mhm.
which is which?
So
So
overlay.
Maple Way, part of it is paved,
Mhm,
and then it drops off to the 8 foot width. That's a gravel portion.
mhm.
So is this 95,000, is that the gravel portion that we're talking about? Or are we talking about going all the way from School Street, all the way up the 25 foot width to the 8 foot width, and then going just gravel to that point forward? What-
So, you'll notice that everyone that says resurfacing or gravel after it, they range, there's some that are 50, there are some that are 95. So the ones that are 50 are like, oh, these are flat, fairly straightforward. We think that would be about $50,000. If there's any kind of other complication, to them, we gave it at 95%.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, are we overlaying the part that's already?
We don't know what we're
or
doing
are we
yet.
just put gravel on the whole thing?
Oh, so we wouldn't be putting gravel on it at all. I think the gravel is left over from another transportation improvement program where we were calling them like gravel roads to be
So we're
paved.
talking about doing basically an overlay and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah, or a
Okay,
chip
wow.
seal mat. We've been working really closely with the county, and so typically what we've been doing is what we're doing in Lakeview is, hey, county, how would you pave this? And then working with them on developing a very fiscally responsible approach to resurfacing.
Okay, so what I'm trying to get my head around
Mhm.
is when you say paving,
Uh-huh.
I think about a company like Lakeview coming in with their paver and everything and doing that versus overlay what the county does where they come in and spray the oil, come in, put the gravel on, then run it over the roller and make it solid that way.
Yeah.
So is that what we're talking about when we talk about this?
So a couple different approaches to resurfacing. There's a very basic resurfacing, which is a chip seal, and I think that's the one that you're probably used to seeing with the oil and the rock and the roller. That wouldn't be considered an overlay. An overlay is normally the street is already paved, and so you would add another 2 to 3 inches of asphalt on top of
Asphalt
it.
itself, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so, would,
So we're talking basically a chip seal kind of approach on, like on Maple Alameda?
we don't know what that resurfacing would look like.
Okay.
Yeah, that would take some evaluation. It's one of the more complicated ones, that's for sure.
Okay, and again, it comes from 25 feet, then it goes down to 8 feet.
Yeah,
And so those are the challenges that we have, is bringing that out to, say, a 25-foot width all the way through there to be able to get a fire truck in there or an
Yeah.
ambulance in there, even though the properties also have access off of Roosevelt.
yeah, you can rest assured any, further development of a resurfacing project for Maple Alameda would involve the neighbors, it would involve survey, it would be looking at like what it would take to do that emergency turnaround.
Yeah.
On Lakeview, we're doing that emergency turnaround. I mean, fire trucks are great, but also plows. I mean, so that's a big motivating factor for me if I'm gonna extend a hard surface. I want to try to see if I can't get a turnaround in there as well.
Okay.
So yeah, the Maple Alameda would definitely have additional discussion and coordination with the affected parties.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? First and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
Hey, Leona, is this you?
Yeah, so Arnold wasn't able to make it, tonight, but I did talk with him about the weather and the trends. He basically said, I don't have any charts or anything in front of, that he provided, but he did mention, so for context, this year, when I talked with him, we're forecast to have to be like at a 1.6 right now, whereas last year we were about at 4.2. So last year, this time, we were already pretty high with regards to fuels, and the dry air and all of that. Right now, we're sitting pretty good. So he doesn't see that fire danger will be a concern for the upcoming fireworks season. So
And I'm just going outside and I felt like that's what it's been. I mean,
rain, pretty good.
You're raining cooler. I mean, it warmed up
It's
today. but
cooler,
it's
yeah,
been-
yeah.
It's different than last year.
Yeah, and he's doing trends as well, forecasting.
Sure.
To make his decisions as well. So
Right.
it's again based off of science and just
The
wanted
main
to.
reason that this is in place is that
I
city
think that's
council,
what we can hear you.
the main reason that this is in place is because we have already passed an ordinance giving us the tool to ban personal use of fireworks. Because of the cooling off period involved, that is not an official ordinance or an enforceable ordinance until October. This gives us the opportunity, using the science that Arnold will provide for us, if he says, and it's weird, the indicator that we're using is if the fire marshal decides that conditions are inappropriate for personal fire or personal fires, then we shall ban the use of personal fireworks. This gives us the tool to do that this year.
And Arnold Booth is the fire marshal for the
Yeah.
county,
Right.
for those that don't know. And again, I would like to reiterate, that this does not say that we are banning the sale of fireworks. It's only the personal use of those fireworks.
If their
If
conditions are met.
The conditions were met.
Yes,
and
if the
then
conditions
just
were
all that we went to multiple meetings about that.
Right. It has nothing to do with the sale of.
Right.
So is this a council action item then?
No, we just wanted to discuss it ahead of it's our last meeting really,
Our last
before
meeting before
the
then.
fireworks.
Okay, so what I got confused about was you said this would give Mr. Mayor, that this would give us the ability to do something this year where the ordinance says we don't have that ability.
It's because until the ordinance isn't going to affect,
So,
by state law, you have to give it a full year? Is
year.
that what it is?
okay,
So
so,
correct me if I'm wrong, isn't this basically declaring a state of emergency, giving the mayor the ability?
No, right now, no, this is just discussion.
That's
We
right.
didn't have
Okay.
anything.
okay, that's where I got confused. And
Because
that's
the
why-
fire danger was so low.
Okay, that
We're not even
image,
getting
that
worried
it's
about it.
not a concern.
No.
Right, okay, got it. All right,
Very good.
so it's informational only.
Yeah.
Okay.
Leona?
So I can't remember, at the April meeting, we talked about the low income housing planning grant from Commerce, and then council approved or authorized a letter outlining a statement of work, which was for $50,000 worth of work. Commerce came back and said, oh, hey, by the way, you can only use $25,000 by June 30th and then $25,000 the next fiscal year. And so the question, we're not able to complete the $25,000 by, in 2 weeks. And so the question of council is, do you want to decrease the scope? Do you want to throw in $25,000? Or do you want to drop the application in the project? Initially, WAGAP was going to be heading it up. They will be having a new executive director, and those, based on just this interaction with the change in scope of work, I feel that that plan has changed and it will be heavily on the city to be managing the project.
Yeah. I would say drop the scope of work. And not put in any city funds. That's what I would say.
I would say the same thing.
And unfortunately, I have to say that I would say the same thing, not that it's not hugely important, but I would say the same thing at this point.
So still keep moving the project forward, but de-scope it to the $25,000.
Yes, please.
Is where we are. I'm.
Yeah, I think that's probably. I don't know.
All right, so we still need a motion.
So the motion's the middle one.
First,
I would make a motion to authorize.
so go to the first
Sorry.
one.
The first words.
The end of-
Yeah.
end
To
of the
direct
second
staff to
sentence.
revise the scope of work to meet the $25,000 budget.
Okay.
There we go.
Got it. Thanks.
Second.
We have a first and second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
All right,
Any opposed?
I don't want to see it die.
No, I don't either. I just. Yeah. Put us in a tough spot.
All right, who will be leading us on the complete streets ordinance reading?
We can do that.
Very good.
So the ordinance that is being proposed is, a short one. In essence, it says that, Stevenson, when we're looking at street projects, new street projects improvements, we will be considering all users of all ages and abilities, and mode type. So, one of the things that spearheads getting this ordinance in here is grant funding. Be able to apply for a larger suite of grant opportunities. You have to have a commitment from your city that says we care about cyclists and walkers, and
So this is above and beyond the tip.
this is, it would be for one of their programs.
Okay.
Yeah, they have a program that requires to be eligible to put in for it, you have to have a complete streets ordinance.
And I'm
So-
for walking,
It seems like really
and I'm for people riding bikes as well,
logical stuff,
So-
yeah.
right?
I do have a few questions on it because it might not be so boilerplate or whatever the term is, but on the grants of, okay, so this is to apply for some grants, this is a requirement thing, right? And that's with the advantage to the city to have this and,
To have the ordinance.
okay,
Or that's one of them, I think another one
okay,
is just like, stated, committed, acknowledgement that when we look at our street infrastructure, we're looking at, providing mobility for all users.
well, I'm wondering, and I don't know the answer, that's why it's just a straightforward question, not an argument, argumentative statement in that, or a debatable statement, and that is, does this lock this city in? Let's say that, to require the city to do a lot more. In other words, how does it affect this? A lot of times there's matching and stuff. So could this be a situation to where we could, if we weren't in this program, we have to give whatever percentage, the city's contribution. But then for all these other things like sidewalks, bike lanes, all these other things that I can see where the state wants this, because in bigger cities, they need all that. They have a ton more traffic, to where then this puts an additional burden on the city for our matching portion. And all of a sudden, we have to take that street. We can't just pave it to get those money, but we have to put in bike lanes, we have to do this. So we, and when we're a small town, we don't need to do what Washougal or Vancouver does, or Seattle does, and to survive. And so that was my concern. Is there gonna be any of those hidden things in there to where this is really,
I think it depends on the grant.
yeah,
Because the grant will have deliverables.
yeah,
And it will tell you what those things are. This provides you, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this provides us the opportunity to apply for those grants that meet our particular situation here. So if you got grants available that require you to put in sidewalks and all that kind of stuff, don't apply for that grant.
no, but does it, I guess
It
my
doesn't
question.
require
saying
you,
it would
it doesn't
Like
require.
If it's a grant that we normally would have got, they wouldn't, if we
Yeah.
have to all of a sudden add more things, I don't.
Yeah, I mean,
I get what
does
you're
it
saying.
preclude us from applying for grants we could have applied for before, but the state says, wait, you signed off on this, so you have to apply for.
It's only 2 pages of ordinance, so, 1207-030 says. The Complete Streets policy focuses not just on changing individual travel corridors, but on changing decision-making process so that all users are routinely considered during the planning, designing, building, and operation of city streets.
Yeah,
And then it says the city will view projects as opportunities to create safer, more accessible streets, consider context and character of surrounding built natural environments and needs identified by local citizens and stakeholders, and identification and prioritizing street projects, plan, design as feasible, construct complete streets, infrastructure, and all street projects.
that wasn't,
Incorporate.
yeah, I read
So
all
it's
that.
pretty,
Okay, so you're answering my
It's
question,
not-
so it doesn't
no, we're
preclude us.
we're not committing to put a sidewalk on every street.
And it doesn't preclude us for applying for any grants that we could have applied for that didn't have all of the requirements if we were not in this program.
Correct.
That's what I'm asking.
Right, it's not gonna make it so we can't
That's
apply for a
correct.
grant.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can still apply for all the grants we could have applied for.
Before,
It
yeah.
actually gives you more opportunities to apply for grants than what you would have had
Okay.
without being in.
Okay, that was my only question.
Gotcha.
Yeah, there aren't any grants that say you can only be the, if you
If you
don't
don't.
have a complete street.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to overcomplicate, I just had that one question, okay.
All right, are we ready? Or no, are you done, Karen?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to approve, let's see, an ordinance of the city of Stevenson adopting a complete streets policy to better serve all users of the transportation and circulation system provided by the city.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, updates to the strategic plan. You got a tee off on this or?
So I think in general, we have kind of outlined some, end states, for each of the priorities, that are listed, sort of context as far as, where those end states came from, and then some potential tasks. And we would like to discuss sort of, those tasks and direction, and then working on either, adopting the strategic plan with the tasks as presented, changes as discussed, or anything else.
a couple of things that concern me about the strategic plan is, one comment I want to make is that, one issue was we brought up one time was an anomaly, and there was code enforcement issue. And staff stated that, well, we can't work on that because it's not part of the strategic plan. And you'd have to change the strategic plan for us to work on that problem. And so I thought about that and I thought, well, really, this strategic plan is it's not just our goals, but it's the staff negotiating with the council on what they will or won't do as part of their jobs. So it's a negotiation, like, hey, if you want us to do it, it needs to be in the strategic plan. So I started looking at it. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just saying that I looked at this document differently than I did before. And what I think, so I look at strategic plan, what I originally thought it was for, and it is for that, but I think it's also for what I just said, though it's the way I'm viewing it anyway. I could be wrong. But it's just, what are your goals? What are you going to work on this next year? Now, the thing that concerns me about this plan is it's very bureaucratic, all the graphs and everything, and we're just a small town. I'm kind of a simple person, grew up in the Dalles, where I think, hey, what are we going to work on this next year? What are our projects? Or here's our four top project. It doesn't have to be this big, long document where you're calling in consultants to help you on it and running meetings and everything. So I feel that this strategic plan overcomplicates our small town. So those are just two comments I'm going to make. And then the last thing I'll say on this is there's also some projects in it that I do not support. So, for example, the Park Plaza is in here. The First Street Overlook project is in here. And so there's some rather big projects. And so the reason that I'm not inclined to support this is because then when I vote yes on it, then they say, well, you voted for us to spend our time on that. Well, what if I realize I could be outvoted on something, but well, so then I realize that this is a document that tells the staff what to do, and that's what it is, and I can understand that. Then if I don't want the staff as one vote out of 5 to be doing some of those things, I better not support it. So anyway, those are my comments on the strategic plan.
This document provides an opportunity to score projects.
Yeah.
So this will help the council direct what the resources that city staff has.
Yeah. Right.
Identifying it as a negotiation between staff and council doesn't feel like a fair representation of what the intent of this document is.
Okay, I was confused by what you said that last sentence, what that meant, but that's okay.
I think one of the things too, Pat, is under the community look and feel section, potential tasks are to establish a high enforcement area along Cascade Avenue, yada, yada, yada. From visual blight, unkept buildings, overgrown vegetation, accumulated equipment, trash and vehicles, ensure nuisances are enforced.
Yeah, and I did
You know,
see that.
And that is within
Yeah,
this overall document, so.
yeah, and I saw that and I thought maybe that was recently added and I was
Yeah.
happy to see that.
Yeah.
So I give credit.
Now, how we do that, that's a whole other
Yeah.
bailiwick.
So I do give the
We have
staff
some
credit
issues
for
with
that
that,
being
yeah.
in there. I
Yeah.
just realized that I looked at it differently after
Yeah.
those comments were made, is all.
Thank you.
What else?
All I got.
No, I mean, I understand what you're saying, like, you know, if we're gonna do this big thing, then we need to take something else off. And the reason that was brought up is because, yeah, we went through and that is part of one of these, and they all come down to priorities and where the direction that we give as council to staff and where they're gonna put their time. We can't do everything all
Right.
at the same exact time.
And that's
We
where,
don't have a big enough staff, and so that's what we're, you know, and if we're not being a city, we just can't do
Right.
everything all at once, so that's what this document kind of
Provides
is. It provides a framework for,
to weight projects,
Yeah.
so that if one of them doesn't score as high as others,
then it moves
it's due
down
to that
to
scoring
this.
system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some go to
And
top
if you
and some
notice
go-
too, that it changed from last year to this year.
Yeah.
The priorities changed, and that all comes within our retreat.
Mhm.
you know, do we need to move something else up to the top? Because this is the priority for this year, so.
Yeah.
We have the ability to make those changes as well.
Right,
And
and
we
I,
can see some of those, so we can see a lot of the things that have moved forward in a big way in the last couple of years in very positive directions. So I mean, that's, you know, and some of the priorities did change from one to the next, but they're all still in there, and what we're spending and directing us to spend time and energy on first is what kind of this does.
yeah, and what I do, my point is, for me, I just try to be consistent in what I support or not
Sure.
support. And when a project comes up, if it's a big project and that I oppose, and it's a big expenditure of staff time and stuff, and it comes up, wherever that project comes up, I'm not
I
inclined
understand.
to
No,
dissolve.
I totally do.
It's kind of like what our legislators do, where they take a bill. And it might be a bill on vehicle licenses, but they attach another part of the bill is on abortion, another part is on something else, and in order to pass one, you gotta pass them all, and yeah. I get where you're coming from, Pat.
Okay.
Thank you.
Entertain a motion.
What motion are we getting? Yeah, I missed the motion.
I guess there's a.
No, this was just for us to discuss.
Well, no, I mean,
Or is
it's in the memo, it's, under action needed.
Where is it?
So
Yeah,
just to adopt the strategic plan as presented or changes as discussed,
Gotcha.
if there are any changes proposed.
If we're ready, I mean, Pat, I know you're gonna.
Oh, no, if I thought
I know.
my mentioning,
Sure,
proposing
no.
those changes would,
Change
do
it.
something, then I would propose them. I think I,
You understand? Yes.
yes,
Yeah, all right.
And we know where you're coming
And
from.
we do.
yeah, I think
So, thank you.
Yeah.
I know when something is a futile effort.
Well, I just want to give you the opportunity, but I'd like to make a motion to adopt the strategic plan and tasks as presented.
First and a second, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
Yeah, Pat, I just want to make sure I'm not running over it. I know. we're-
No, you weren't. and
Okay.
I think I've done a good job of making sure I'm heard.
Yeah,
so
no, you
I
are.
appreciate that.
Well, I just, just trying to,
Yeah.
all right, what's
thank you.
next?
Thank you.
Leona?
So Transportation Benefit District, so kind of continuing on the conversation about priorities and staff time. Not able to meet the deadline for August 6th to adopt the resolution for sales tax to get it on the November ballot for Transportation Benefit District. So I've reached out to some PR firms and haven't heard back either. So there's no staff bandwidth to do anything to get it on that initial, to meet that initial deadline. So there are some other dates proposed as options. I will state that if it is a special election, it will be more expensive because we will bear the bulk of the cost.
Do you know
Whereas
what
if it's
that is? What, I mean, roughly, what are we looking at?
No, 5,000, I don't know, you have to, I don't know. Because sometimes they throw in the cost of voter registration or something, it changed, but we have to mail. We have to pay for all the postage and everything to mail the ballots.
Do we have a permit, mail permit?
The county charges us, the county does elections.
So they do
Yeah.
their permit. So it wouldn't be a.
But so if you want it on a special election, that's the downfall. If it's a general election or maybe even the primary, I mean, the primary, we may or may not be on it depending on how many people file. But we would definitely be on the next November general election.
Is, what kind of, have you done a projection on what this will bring in for revenue?
It's gonna be revenue neutral for the street fund because we're gonna take that 0.3%, we're gonna give it to.
I know, but I'm wondering what that amount
Um,
is. Have you done a projection on that?
Oh, gosh.
It was around 200.
That was,
What's that?
it was in there. I don't remember what it was. Off the top of my head.
Here on the Our documentation.
Oh, no, no, this is, I mean, it was, when we, proposed it back.
Yeah,
So, using last year's, sales tax revenue, it would bring in about $270,000 to the water sewer fund.
So my question would be, is timing. If we did a special election and it passed, when would we be able to start pulling that in as opposed to waiting until basically the
So if
general
we,
election?
right, so if we put it on the, February 2020, let's see. Yeah, 2025 special election, we'd be able to start receiving it in September of 2025.
Okay,
If we put it on the April 25 special election, we'd start receiving it in March of 26. If we put it in the August primary, again, the March 26. And if we got it in November, we would receive the money in June of 26. Now, it takes about 2 months so the tax would be implemented like 2 months prior to that. It takes a couple months for it to get to us.
to me, it seems advantageous to pay the $5,000 to have it put on a special election as opposed to waiting that long in order to start bringing that revenue in to apply to the sewer fund. That's just me.
Yeah, I would go for the February, if possible, and then.
I mean, I know it's money that we haven't allocated in the general fund, but it would seem to me like that would be the advantageous way, the most logical thing. Now that, my logic sometimes is flawed.
I know what the burden of making, we talked about, we gotta get word out. It's all about it's all about branding and letting people know what's going on.
And in the back of your mind, you're going through, okay, what am I gonna set aside in order to do this?
No, I totally get that part of it, so I think our consensus is that sooner rather than later, as soon as that can be feasibly accomplished.
I agree with that.
The quicker we can get the money, the better.
Well, we have
I
made,
have said that before.
And then also, attached in the packet was a draft, ordinance for the establishment of it. I had thought that you could establish it and assume it at the same time, but no, you have to establish it. And then you have to set a public hearing date for the council to then assume it, then you have to have that public hearing date. And so that's why it's like 3 to 4 months before you do anything.
Yeah.
Because then the council then has to adopt that resolution, putting it on the ballot.
Sure.
So, yeah, it's,
In the meantime, you can start working on it.
right, yeah.
We all,
Yes.
Mhm. Mhm. So. Okay. So that, ordinance will probably be on the next agenda.
thank you.
Wonderful.
All right. What do we have next?
Okay, so there are quite a few informational items on here, but one of note is.
did we do,
Wait.
F?
F.
Oh,
Oh, wait, that
No,
was taken off, right?
Well, yeah, it's on the next.
That's right, I saw that, so, excuse me,
Sorry,
yeah,
go ahead.
we do have some informational items included in your packet, but the most important one is item E. Councilmember Christie McCaskill has turned in her resignation notice, obviously effective immediately. So well-crafted letter, she will be missed.
Yes, you will. So, moving forward, what is the process for filling that vacant position?
It's already advertised, it's already on the website,
Okay,
notice.
What's the timeframe?
Posted. It'll be at the next agenda
The people.
to get applications.
It's a job interview. If you don't like any of the applicants, then
Well, that's what I was asking, but then,
Yeah.
yeah,
yeah, their deadline for applying is
Yeah.
the day before our meeting, and then the next
And then
council meeting in
say-
July is when we
gotcha,
would interview them.
fair enough. Thank you. Cause Dave came on right.
We
Ben,
Staff reports. We, are getting together the scopes of work for the two upcoming, grant contracts with the state. So the first we discussed, and we'll discuss more, next week is critical areas ordinance, where they're giving us, funds to update our ordinance due, middle of the year 2026. The second is the grant we have with State Department of Natural Resources for tree preservation. And specifically to avoid conflicts with overhead utilities. Status quo is to remove the tree from the equation when there's conflict. The idea here is to have an understanding of how much it would cost, and so that we can start planning to remove the utility from the equation by putting it underground. So
Yeah.
working
rather than taking the tree out.
right, rather than taking the trees. Working closely with the PUD on that, and putting together a scope of work with the state. So that those should be the next two contracts you see for the grants, followed by contracts with consultants to perform the work that we're requesting on those. Other project that's underway is the Lasher Streets improvements. So we've been appropriated 800,000 from the state legislature through their multimodal account to do improvements to Lasher Street. Lasher goes from Vancouver Avenue here and serves the Cascade Village apartment complex that was built in 1969 or 71, that era. It's not served by a single sidewalk in town, and it's outside of the ideal range for a fire hydrant. So this is an underserved community that is underserved by the urban services that the city provides. So fire suppression, pedestrian amenities. In 2022, we went to the residents of the apartment complex and noted that there's not a sidewalk that serves this community, and there ought to be. Which of these three corridors would be the most helpful for you in getting your children to the elementary school, which is blocks away. They chose this Lasher Street corridor, and so we're following up on that and assembling the funding. 800,000 from state legislature is into this. We'll be using that to do design. We also hope to bring TIB funds into this, that'd be state gas tax funds. With the adoption of the Complete Streets Ordinance, that means that we're now competing for a $30 million pot instead of a $10 million pot. And so we feel that improves the project in the end if we're successful in getting that. And then also community development block grants is the other funding source that we're looking at for that fire suppression side. So the emergency service and filling this project. Current estimates, we believe it's $2.5 million to complete the project. That's sidewalk, that's lighting, street trees, and rebuilding Lower Lasher with an alignment change to provide sidewalks down there. It's still in the scoping stage, project identification scoping stage, so some of that can be cut out and pared down to make the project that really works. But those wheels are in motion, and I think
And is there any, excuse me, is there any thought process in regards to, our open at once plan in regards to?
are there any thoughts to that?
I'm just wondering if that's included in those
Absolutely.
Okay.
So sewer was evaluated, sewer's in good
Yeah.
condition
sewer,
there.
water lines. those
Water
kinds of
line
things.
is ductile iron, it goes past the site, there's
Yep.
just no
PUD burying their lines.
PUD is buried up there.
Okay,
So yeah, it's a
I kind of
simple
figured
project
that, but I
way.
just wanted to ask a question.
Yeah, simple project that way. Storm is one of the bigger unknowns. How storm would be dealt with, existing storm system as it comes in there and where it outlets to, so.
A lot of work to do.
We'll know more about that as the design process carries out.
Evaluating turnaround.
Yeah, evaluating turnaround at the end,
Adding a
and
hydrant.
whether or not to touch that at all.
Nothing's easy.
Nothing's easy.
Easy one's already done.
Ben, you said 69, 71 is the timeframe.
I believe, going off memory of
Quite a while ago. Do you know anything about the project? Like how it got funded or how any?
You're talking about
That's
Cascade
quite
Valley.
the community up there to be stood up by a town this size back then.
Yeah,
So is Rock Creek Apartments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
Those are two huge.
yeah. Both of them at this time are owned by a nonprofit agency that's, I don't know exactly how it all works, but they do subsidize the income of or the rent of the residents there, so. There was a lot of development like that at that time, this community, other communities, and tapping into other sources. So. That project has taken a lot of work to get to this point, to identify the work that needs to be done, and there will be more that goes along with it. You should expect, if we do get these community development block grants, or if we do pursue that, you should expect a public hearing on that for the public to tell you whether that's a good way to good project to put forward for those funds, or whether there might be some other project in the community better suited for that. See, you authorized a public release draft of the sewer and septic discussions. We have since got some analysis from our legal counsel that we have been hoping to add to your deliberations. We've got some of that now that's causing us to delay releasing that public release draft, and we'll probably come back to you all once we have a little bit more information to inform you of the advice we got there and modify things before sending it out to the public for comments to just change on them later. Not advisable. So that project is on hold-ish, but we'll come back to you soon. And really want to be finishing up the parking study, parking analysis, and get the regulatory changes vetted by the planning commission for potential recommendation to you.
You thank the planning commission for all the stuff that they're doing, because I know they're up to their hind end and alligators, and I know they're working hard, so please pass on their thanks to them.
A quick question. So the sewer stuff, when do you anticipate that coming back to the council on that those legal analysis?
We've got another question out.
Okay.
That'll determine when we bring it back to you, and I'm
Okay,
not able to predict the.
okay, thank you.
So in our water division, update on long-term water supply. There they are. We've got kind of a plug in place that's proposed that would raise the pH in the well and allow us to be able to use it for longer periods this summer. As far as the longer term evaluation continues, which really the big question is, go all in. Is it more economical and sustainable, bless you, to go all in on a groundwater solution? Or is it more economical and sustainable to go all in on a surface water solution? That's kind of the bigger question that evaluation continues. Consumer confidence report was drafted. Will be on the website before July 1st. Water use efficiency report, also like our leak, basically our leak analysis is due this month as well. This month is approached, the end of this month is approaching very fast. As many of you probably are aware, we did have a big water break on Loop Road last week. It was 8-inch AC. So no real surprises there.
What was it?
8-inch
8-inch
AC
line?
pipe, yeah. One of the things we've been doing to better and standardize our single family residence building permit application review process is to include estimates for water service, for water services. I don't know that was something that was provided in the past unless it was requested. But I think it's a good value add for people receiving a permit to understand what that cost is gonna be. So there was a worksheet, Excel worksheet that was built this last week and it's already been put into practice. So I'm proud of that. Let's see, any questions on water? No. And the wastewater division,
The guys did an awesome job on that too.
thank you. I will let them know.
Yeah.
I was there too. As were you.
Did they find out why the back truck was blowing water out the top?
Yeah, it was full.
Oh,
Yeah, so that's
Okay.
what happens when it gets full.
Wait.
Yeah, so that's that. I've got a great picture of Dave holding the flagger sign, doing his part.
getting sprayed with muddy water.
At least it wasn't a sewer break, it was a water break.
That's right, that's right. There is a positive.
Our pump station project continues. They're making really good progress on all pump stations. Fairgrounds will probably start up July 1st, so that's exciting. Wastewater treatment plant project is moving along. We expect it will move back into the lab mid-July. Looking forward to that. Pipe inspection and cleaning contract is still forthcoming. Our wastewater treatment plant outfall will be inspected next week. I was working on the contract to inspect our reservoirs, two more of our reservoirs just earlier today for water. Forgot to mention that. There is a temperature requirement that's likely going to be in our permit update. I've had conversations with DOE. They seem confident we won't have any impacts from that. But we will be installing a continuous monitoring gauge to assess where we are right now. Any questions on wastewater?
Just a question was, when do you anticipate Stellar J will be done?
Oh, I think their schedule says next April or March. But
I see
largely done.
we made another $136,500 payment to them. And so just I'm curious, how much do we have left on that contract, do you know?
I can get an answer in a minute.
And I know some of the reasoning why that's taken so long, but
Mhm.
it's kind of frustrating.
Yeah,
Or the
sometime it'd be good to get maybe a council update on some of there was some issues there.
Yeah, that probably hasn't
Yeah.
done in an executive
Yes,
session.
exactly, and that's what I'm suggesting, maybe at some point, however that happens, if it would be good to get an update.
I would like an update.
Maybe, and it's good we're asking for an update, because
I
then
would
you'll
like
ask.
one
for
as
it.
well.
So you ready to move on the streets?
Yeah, I can move out on the street.
636,000
Left, is what we have left. Okay, thank you.
I have this to change order too.
Streets, we're doing a lot of prep and resurfacing on the west end. So thank you for approving the closures of those streets, for this work. We have sidewalks that, are becoming overgrown. It's really becoming a problem with all the sunshine and the rain. We actually put together a, compliance map tool, leveraging GIS to be able to track compliance and communication with property owners, on their sidewalk vegetation impacts, nuisances, I guess is what it would be.
What kind of enforcement issues capability do we have with that? Do we just take our, brush hog and run alongside, and just trim it off for them and then send them a bill?
First we send them a letter and ask them to do it, and we give them some time, 10 days to get it done. Or get in touch with us and let us know when they're gonna get it done. So, and then after 10 days, yeah, we would go and trim it back and send them a bill.
Is that what is customary? Is that what happens as a custom now? Or is it?
Hasn't happened historically. Historically, we've just done it and not billed them, but
Okay.
as part of the fee resolution that you guys passed, there was some actual costs. I mean, we've always had the ability to bill, the ordinance, it's no new ordinance to do that, to bill the cost of addressing basically a right-of-way usage obstruction item.
It might behoove us to maybe,
Call before
put
the
some
letter.
kind of a notice
Oh,
on our website and just let people know what their, what the expectation level is as a landowner and having a sidewalk and that maintenance of that area. And what we expect to have that. have
basically what
that
the ordinance
owner do.
has, yeah.
And that, you know, maybe ramifications or what the opportunities of the city to recoup their costs on it as well, so.
Yeah. Sounds great.
But I think we need to be proactive and make sure that people understand.
Especially if somebody's running into us before, they're like, well, I got this letter for it, the city just came and cleaned it up. And now they get a bill.
Yeah,
So maybe, yeah, I mean, I'm not saying we shouldn't recoup costs, I'm just saying,
Well, I think that's something that we need to really
yeah,
start making sure we do is recoup our costs because it's taxpayer dollars that are paying to do those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And if it's because of negligence on a landowner, then my opinion is that needs to be back on that landowner.
Yeah, and then what I hear you saying, it's an education piece and that
Absolutely.
can,
Do the education piece first, yes.
yeah, because I think a lot of people probably don't know that it's their responsibility. And so customarily, it's not really been enforced. So, all of a sudden they get a letter, you know, oh, you better do this and this is gonna happen. And they're gonna go, wait a minute, this is in other words, there can be the soft education and then the
Absolutely.
next level and then the,
Called doing the right thing.
yeah, we had this conversation with Scott, a couple weeks ago, and he instructed us that we need to make sure that we're calling prior to issuing those letters, so people understood.
Yeah.
Do the right thing.
And, in addition to that, these are repeat offenders for the most part.
right, okay.
They got called last year too.
So the reason this came up is there was a property that needed some attention and a letter was issued. And the homeowner, this is a small town. You know my name. You can't come and tell me to cut my grass or.
Rather than you send me a letter.
Right, so that was much of, yes, I have thoughts, but let's start with you know them. Yeah, let's start with that.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think that was a good point.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, you bet.
So we hosted a TIB workshop a couple weeks ago. Everyone learned TIB means what? Transportation Improvement Board.
Oh, I'm thinking CIB, what is it?
TIB.
I don't think,
TIB, yes.
I don't think that's after AP, it's my policy, okay. Okay.
yeah.
Anyway, so they came in and did a workshop. We hosted them here. We had, Bingent and White Salmon both attend, represented.
Oh, good.
And White Salmon both attend. So, yeah, they kind of said, hey, this is what we're looking for. These are our programs, how much money's out there. Get your complete streets ordinance in. We did that. Thank you for approving it. First Street project, NTP to be issued ASAP. Anyone want to take a crack at those ones? Notice to proceed. And as soon as possible. Construction,
I'm writing this one down. Tell me again.
NTP
Oh, they ASAP.
to be completed ASAP. Construction would then commence within 10 days. That would be one that might, they would likely see in, at the July meeting would be a request to approve the, closure of that portion of First Street, to reroute traffic to use Second Street.
Do we need to go through that process every time? Or can we
Yeah.
just make a blanket?
As you will, to the public works department.
Yes, because I mean, it just seems redundant for you to have to come to us to ask permission to close a street that you have to do work on.
Yeah, we've already said doing the work is
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, is there? a
I
requirement that we do
was
that?
closing streets left and right last year, like.
Yeah, so it changed.
Without thinking about it, when we were applying for this, or when we sent over, working with WashDOT and the WashDOT local programs,
Oh, okay.
person said, hey, are you sure? He said, it was like, oh, you need 10 days notice if you wanna close the street. And, he was like, I don't think you can get that through council in 10 days. And I was like, I don't think I have to get it through council. And he's like, you may wanna check on that. And so Robert did some digging for us and provided the guidance that anything over 12 hours, needs to go through.
Really?
For you guys, yeah.
Oh,
So anything more than a day's worth of work. Now,
Okay.
if it's only a day's worth of work, or it's an emergency, then I'm fine to close it. But
All right.
Good to know.
any that we see coming, so, sorry.
Just more work for you and, you know,
Yeah,
I don't mind approving
Well, and
you selling it to Club.
Get
We
the
just think you
back
need to-
end there too.
Yeah,
yeah.
but yeah, that's fine.
Just making sure it's done the right way.
Yep.
You guys probably noticed we removed the couple trees in the west end that were dead and hazardous,
Yeah, no, I think he's done.
and on the east end, yep. I actually spoke with Gotta Have a Job with Johnny,
Johnny, yeah,
and, he said he feels like he's more like part of downtown now. He's like, I wouldn't have thought that the tree had that much impact, but I looked out the window and I'm like, oh, I am part of the downtown, and so
Good.
that felt good to him, which
Right,
is
nice.
another, which feels good to me.
And it was pointed out that the east end, they have an open campus, blank
Yeah.
campus.
Yeah,
Yeah, Carson has that sign, the Welcome to Stevenson sign. You guys probably noticed that there's just a post there, so he's working some woodworker skills to try to make it less embarrassing. I can't guarantee it's not gonna be a new sign, but it'll be less embarrassing. Let's see, I spoke with a resident on Rock Creek Drive for quite a while, concerned about speeding. So just kind of a heads up, I'm considering purchasing a radar feedback sign to alert folks of their travel speeds. They have one that actually is mobile, so you can have it in one street and then just take the screws, you mount it to a post and then you take the screws out and you can take it someplace else.
can I make a suggestion?
Of course.
Utilize the sheriff's office.
Huh?
Utilize the sheriff's office. They've got one right now and it's sitting in the building, the STAR building. But,
Ask them to put it up. It's on a trailer, right?
pardon?
Is it on a trailer?
White trailer.
Mhm.
Sign comes out, they plug it in to charge it up. And I would make that request as part of the law enforcement, contract is, we have this issue. Can you address it with the radar reader board and have it put out there?
So we talked
Yeah.
about that a little bit, this morning. And with this particular item, you can put it, the selling point was being able to put it on any post, but can be put onto a trailer. In some cases, it's gonna come down to the footprint, so if you wanted to put it someplace where there's not enough right of way for the trailer. But there is a data component to this, where it'll collect the data.
Yes. Yeah.
And it has customizable messages, right?
Yeah,
Thanks for slowing down or
Mhm.
something along
based
those
on the
lines.
speed
But-
that they observe.
If you get up to it, I'm assuming there's a threshold, but a red and blue light,
Yes,
that gets attention.
yes.
Oh, yes, you should probably think about still with that.
Question, funding source, could we pull that out of Leona? Could we pull that out of, hotel motel tax?
Now it'd be
I,
streets.
Streets, we do,
Streets?
budget in our sign item for the purchase. It's
Do
like,
we have enough?
it's like
budget in
$5,000 or
that?
$6,000, like it's not a bank breaker. But to be able to move
Would
it,
be within the budget,
yeah,
just move it around?
yep. I think it's doable. I haven't sort of looked with Leona on it, but I think it's doable. Yeah, equipment, we did identify a loader and are working towards its procurement. We also tested a sweeper, which was kind of cool because it had an arm that you can actually use to sweep the sidewalk. Just, I like.
That is cool.
It also gets into bump outs a little bit more easily because it cruises like in advance of the main truck, and so you have a little bit more control. I didn't drive it, but so I was taught. Walnut Park tree work was completed in the last month, so definitely did some cleanup of the cherry tree and the walnut tree and some of the evergreens that were in there, so it's much brighter and more inviting. I actually drove by, or when we were walking by, and there were people sitting in the park, which was kind of nice. I don't know that I had seen that before. What a little sunshine will do. Just some staff note, a couple staff notes. We have a communication workshop at the city staff meeting on Monday, so looking forward to that. My staff and I swapped shadowing the last couple weeks. 2 weeks ago, I shadowed every public works staff member, kind of get a sense of what their day looks like, how they approach their work and interact with people. And then I also asked that they shadow me. So they came in and they went to meetings, they looked over my shoulder as I replied to emails. They were part of conversations at the front desk. So I think it was a good exercise. It certainly opened my eyes. When they weren't struggling to keep their eyes open, I think that they saw a thing or two as well. The only other couple notes is we have a contractor quarterly coffee in a couple weeks. So as you know, it's now our second one. But trying to get the contracting community to come in so we can have a dialogue about what's working, what's not working. Are there opportunities for improvement and clarifications and support we can give each other? And Liana and Tiffany Honors myself will be attending a public works contract training next week. Our newest staff member, John, passed the water distribution manager training or certification. So it's exciting for him. He's our newest member. And I will not be at the July city council meeting.
Quick question, do you know, or does anybody know how old the walnut tree is in Walnut Park?
Is that identified in the plan, Ben? Or is it just, this is really old, you should be here?
It's an existing tree in 1984 or 86.
I'm just wondering if we need to be able to focus more on that park and put I don't know, I'm just talking outside the box here, some kind of a reader board saying, welcome to Walnut Park, and talk a little bit about the age of the walnut tree. I don't know, it just seems like, you drive by it and you don't really know it's there unless you know it's there.
Have you taken the dance steps?
Yeah.
Have you done that? Well, so as Carolyn was pointing out, that was a big project for the Spruce Up Day, was to get those big bushes out of there.
Yes,
That were
yeah.
just-
I mean, it looks great.
But now it's very evident, okay, yeah, the bushes are out, but something's gotta go back in. Cause now it's nice and sunny and bright, that
Yeah.
tree is finally wide open.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's definitely some next steps.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
When you go to the fish hatchery and you see Herman, the sturgeon.
Yes,
And
Yeah.
play the sound that says, and Herman is over 75 years.
You know, maybe we could have the elementary school
There was an article on that.
have a contest
With the
to
towels,
name
we're
the
really-
walnut tree.
But it's a
That's very
different
sweet.
permit.
Yeah, something.
And so I
Very
think that
sweet.
there's a lesson in that for Walnut Park's future and its longevity is call it Walnut Park and have a discussion of the walnut trees that are in Walnut Park, but maybe not handcuff ourselves to that tree. Herman.
Right, yeah, how old is Herman really? And they're like, yeah.
We had a tree that was up to.
Oh, there are, speaking, I almost forgot to, mention that Devin put more fish in his clarifier, so. Again, hoping this batch survives. It must be a thing though, because I moved my horse to a place in Stabler and, I went out and saw her yesterday and I took a peek in her water trough and they had fish in there, little goldfish. And I was like, okay, this must be a thing.
Don't talk to Bob Talon, he bought those real expensive grass eating carp or whatever they were. And I mean, spent like thousands of dollars on them to put out there in this lake and the otter got them.
Oh,
At my dad's house, it was the meek.
Yeah,
anything for me? Questions?
thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Liana, take us home.
What?
Take us home.
So talked with the state representative for the Safe Streets for All Phase 1, sort of a planning grant. And they narrowed it down to, so it'll be $3,000 for all of the cities that are gonna be participating in that planning grant, and we'll get $100,000 of work out of it. So that'll again be phase 1. And then the goal is to then take any projects that are identified out of that or goals identified out of that to leverage projects for the next phase that we would pool together to get funding for that.
What was, the council had authorized you
We
to
offer it.
Is it 5,000?
up to
Up
something,
to-
but get the best deal.
Yeah,
You came
yeah.
through,
Right.
So
Yeah,
you
yeah.
came through.
So.
Okay.
Carolyn already mentioned the contract training. We're good. I mean, it'll be fun. Start at 5 a.m. on a Tuesday. It'll be great. And then audits started.
Saving the taxpayer money,
Right, yeah.
not staying overnight.
Yep. Audit started this week, but it's been very quiet. So
You still need one of us to respond to you.
no, I believe Pat has
Okay.
reached out.
Okay.
So she's gonna get with him.
Thanks, Pat.
Mhm. So.
Have fun with that.
She already called.
Okay, good.
So I'll let you know what comes of it. It's only gonna be a single audit and a financial audit. So no accountability audit, which would be where they would audit like processes or contracts, like the process of contracting. This is just in essence making sure our financials are sound.
Our processes are sound and
And that our numbers match and what's the other one? So for the single audit, they're auditing the EPA grant, which is $2.5 million that we got. There were only two reimbursements, and so yeah, should be quick and easy. Yeah,
That's it.
I mean, yeah.
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
Remember the well ownership question with the county? I had asked a question on it some time ago and I've forgotten even my question, but it's the city's well, but there was some paperwork issue and Mr. Muth was going to fix something with the county because something was wrong. And I never heard back. Did he ever get that fixed, whatever that
Not yet.
ownership? But it's a paperwork thing that's getting fixed then? Okay,
It's on our list.
okay, whatever it is, it's getting fixed. Okay. Thank you.
I would entertain a motion to approve the vouchers.
I want to approve the vouchers with presented.
Your second?
Yeah.
All right, my first and second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anything for the greater good?
I met with the opioid council or group, whatever you call it. And we are going to be addressing how that money is distributed. And I have suggested that maybe we use the same model that we use when we are looking at hotel motel tax revenues and how we distribute those. And so I'll be working, getting hold of Leon and maybe getting a couple of documents to take to my next meeting, which is in July. So quite a bit of money out there for that. So it'll be interesting to see how people put in applications for that.
What else?
Do you want to mention that, or did we want to mention all about the ARPA money at all?
We're gonna have a workshop on
A
that.
workshop?
How it can be spent, what it can be spent on.
Well, we're just gonna do, an agenda item at the next council meeting, and the question was, what information would you need to see as a council on ARPA funding?
Okay, so we'll see that at next meeting as a tee off, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
We can do that over a couple of meetings, because Carolyn's not gonna be at the meeting, we're gonna have that.
Yeah, but I feel like it was, since it has to be spent in a certain time frame.
True.
Committed.
We were not,
Yeah.
is it, is it spent
I can,
obligated, not spent paid?
right,
Okay.
obligated, contracted. I can see if we can turn it on the next agenda after, depending on how that conversation goes.
We have interviews next month too, so tread lightly on.
Yeah.
Agenda item.
Yeah. So I'll see if I can throw-
Potentially,
I'll see if I can throw it on the next,
Hopefully.
as in next week.
Sure, yeah,
Can you
I
make
don't,
it?
I don't want to move that next week, I think so.
all right,
I got it.
so, well, go ahead, Lynn.
It's not, I don't see it listed here on an issue for future meetings. Is that what we're up to? Or did I just jump on it? So one of the things that came up tonight from public comments is related to what are the expectations of when somebody develops? Are they bringing a street up to a certain standard or not? When we've had the discussion about sewer, you guys have settled on something.
When you're putting in an ADU and then all of a sudden, do you have to upgrade the street?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's real no clear policy on that or no clear understanding of what's desirable or acceptable by the community. And that lack of understanding, that lack of policy, you just saw play out in front of you tonight. Why were we able to do this? There's not, it's not safe to do that. Why are you able to do that? Because the city doesn't require you to do any street improvements in order to construct. Is that an acceptable solution? Apparently it wasn't for the people who are here tonight. Is it an acceptable solution for you to require street improvements before an ADU is built? I don't know the answer to that. We have been talking about creating a forum to discuss that with the standards update and that potential for planning commission, city council, joint meetings to set out what that expectation is.
I think that'd be a good discussion item.
It would
because
be a
I-
great discussion. I don't know.
Because I'm thinking, you know, like if I want to put an ADU on my property, am I gonna have to put in a sidewalk and do street improvements, everything on Shepherd Avenue in order to be able to do that? So,
Are you gonna need a separate driveway? Are you?
Yeah.
Are you?
yeah. So I think that'd be a good discussion item for that workshop then. Hey, that's just me, but.
Yeah, because it could just be an education piece. I know we can say this for the discussion, but it could be, do you realize that when you do that, that this, you're gonna have this street here, but you're fine with that, right? Because otherwise we want you to be happy, but if the converse of that would be, you might have to spend $150,000 on a street improvement and you don't, if we require that, or you wouldn't be happy either. So
Yeah.
just wanna make sure.
And maybe the planning commission wants to do a little precursor work on that prior to us getting together.
Oh, I see. I see.
Work on this.
I actually think Tuesday.
They could do that to us on things, so be careful what you put on them. They could say, well, maybe the city council should, blah, blah, blah.
Part of it, it's a big discussion, and big discussions deserve a lot of preparation to build that understanding, so. Fitting that in amongst the other things is gonna be difficult, it's very necessary. Or just building that understanding that this is an issue we'll still deal with.
I think having it on the radar and knowing that, yeah.
The sewer folds exactly into that though, so that's the thing, you'd wanna have consistency.
Well, and education up front, kind of like what Carolyn did with letting people know, hey, this is, you know, the price is gonna be to connect to whatever beforehand, when you're doing the application. I know I'm on the hook. If I do this, I'm on the hook for this cost, not just the application fee.
Here's a novel idea. If you're
so-
gonna dig a hole and put a sewer pipe in it, you gotta put something back on top of it.
Right. Well, I mean, just, you know. Anyway, I think it's good. This kind of goes in that same vein of educating before the dig starts, or the, get that far into planning even.
So
I
I'm
think
glad
it's
that this is all kind of shaking out, is because now, Bird, we hear you. Yes,
Right,
you're
no,
right.
yeah, absolutely.
So it's definitely, absolutely on our radar.
Yeah.
Heard you. Heard,
Yes.
heard. So you
Yeah.
can at least have that answer.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Anything else?
No, Leanna, I think David had asked in the past, we have the code situation enforcement issue that, and so, and that it probably was an executive session item if we got into some of the legal issues, so, but I don't know, you were checking into when that could happen, and I'm just curious where we're at
There
with
have
that.
been no changes, but I can see about putting it on the next agenda.
Okay, but I guess I'm requesting that it be on an agenda then.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea, because we do have some issues still, so.
Yeah, so how do we go about getting that?
Well, and again, that comes into context with having, Mr. Muth here and giving us the legal.
Yeah,
So what
Aspects of it,
specifically
too.
do you want to know?
well, if it's I don't think you want to discuss something now in open session if it's a legal issue that should be discussed in executive session. So I would like to have an executive session to discuss the legality of some enforcement of some issues.
Enforcement, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that the executive session is the only appropriate way to do that.
We have to be very specific what we're gonna be talking about in executive session, so.
Enforcement of existing codes with a property owner with some egregious violations. That is the issue.
And we can give you the property owner.
So is that executive session or?
I can put it on the next executive session.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, that's all I got.
That's all I got.
I would entertain, no, I'm just gonna go ahead and close it. We're gonna do 8:38.
Wonderful.
Pick it up for me, Liana.